Welcome back to Park Car Conversations, where we have very vulnerable, in-depth conversations. You know those ones? You've ever been in a car and had a really deep talk with someone? That's how the concept of this show and podcast started. I am your host, Jay Lucci. I feel like when you said that to me the other day, that was one of the few moments I understand it's hard for a lot of people to be vulnerable online. And I can understand that not everybody is willing to be super open about their life experiences. And we all have lived experience.
Really, I could have just said no. I don't want anything to do with them, which
a lot of people probably do.
A lot of people do out of just, resentment.
For me, it's like a cheat code. I realized that, really and true, I've built my entire brand just off of being myself and being vulnerable about my truths, about my hardships, about my joys, sharing my life. And so today's episode is going to be basically based on Jay Lucci and my journey here. If you're watching this, my journey onto YouTube. So what's up, guys? My name is Jay Lucci, like pronouncing Jay Lucci.
Okay. Are we doing a countdown?
Yes.
From 5. Okay.
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
For those of you who don't know, maybe actually a lot of people don't know that writing has always been my first joy. Like, I know you guys see me online. If you're watching this right now, I'm very vocal. I'm always speaking, and these thoughts come from inside my brain, and sometimes actually being able to write them down comes a lot more fluent than actually being able to speak these words true. So I actually have something written. There's a notebook today. If I'm being open and very vulnerable, I was having a really rough day. Actually, it's been a rough little patch for me. And so I was having a super hard time being productive. You know, those days, like everything. I'll get further into what everything means or what everything looked like. But somebody who really cared about me came and pulled up with a notebook and said, you know what, the power of paper and pen. And I believe in that too. And he said, this book, I got you 2 pens, blue and pink, your favorite colors, and you need to write and get to work. So I was able to write something in this notebook, and I wanted to share with you guys. I think it is very powerful. And as I read what I've written, I'll kind of break things down as best as possible if I need to. But as you can see here, I've written. So I'm going to share with you guys. So the title says, Jay Lucci, you've got this. Comparison is the thief of joy. It's easy to compare your success to others, but everyone's success looks different. So today I had to remind myself, and this is full transparency, being an entrepreneur, being, someone who has a brand. I have been able to work with different brands and be paid from it. And these brands have good money to pay. And today I was feeling down on myself because I see all my other friends who are doing amazing things. Friends, acquaintances, people that I don't even know online, and they're working with different sponsors. And while I'm not working with a sponsor like today, right, I don't have anything right now that's paid. I was getting down on myself because I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I gotta get up and do things. But I had to remind myself that success for me today looked like just being a present parent. Literally just being, it's the weekend time. I grocery shopped, I cooked, did some house chores, and I was able to just hang out with my kid. What I was doing was comparing myself to others, like looking at other people who maybe don't have kids. I'm like, well, if I didn't have a kid and I had all this time to do these brand deals and sit down on my computer all day, maybe that would make a difference. And, but you can't do that. So in my notebook, I said, today I had to remind myself that while I feel behind in securing brand deals, my success was being present with my son, my family, house life, and that's okay too. Social media constantly pushes on us the need to be getting to the bag, like all the time. And sometimes we forget that social media isn't real life. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that social media doesn't have real aspects of it. Like I said, from building my brand and being present online, I have been able to secure the bag from just being online. But it's a construct. So while we're on here, right, let me just break it down to you. You guys remember I said I was having a rough day, all the hard things I was going through? I'm gonna break it down to you. I wrote it down here. Working on my brand while trying to be a present mother, while scheduling time to make money. For those of you who don't know, I also braid hair Wednesday through Friday because residual incomes matter, but also, you know, making the money when I can to pay these bills matter. So while scheduling time to make money and prioritizing time for my physical health, going to the gym, making sure you're eating for those gains, and trying to eat properly while getting enough sleep, while dealing with my family and relationships, while trying to maintain a social life. I wrote here, what the fuck? Because that's what it feels like, and that leads to anxiety. But I've come to realize that a big part of tackling your anxiety is getting shit done, right? When I'm on top of my to-do list, it makes me feel really confident and good. So that's a piece of advice I want to leave to someone out there. Sometimes you might feel so overwhelmed because there's so much to do, there's so much going on. Like, let's be real. Like, even just the last two, family life, relationships, that shit can add a lot of stress onto your table. Motherhood, parenthood, like all these things, you know, like just maintaining everything overall. If you're someone like me, I get that it feels overwhelming. But if you do like a to-do list and get shit done, like when you're productive, that eliminates anxiety big time. So that's huge. All facets and streams of incomes are important. I feel like I constantly look to see how others are getting it done by looking at their niches. But really, Jafina, like, what is your niche? I think if I'm being super vulnerable here, like, I've always said this, I'm not a singer, I'm not a dancer, I be doing the singing and stuff in the shower, but like, you know, I'm not a singer, I'm not a dancer, I am not an athlete, I am not, you know, I don't really have a specific niche. I don't do makeup, I don't do fashion, you know, all these things that you see online. I don't do fitness full-time, that is, like, you know, there's all these like genres online, and I can see people thriving in it, and I guess my lane is a little bit different because I just be speaking, I just be like sharing my thoughts, and sometimes it's easy to compare. It's like, well, it seems so much easier if I can create a program for working out and release that and sell it. But how do you sell what it is that I'm speaking about? And when I really think about it, I'm not even trying to sell. I get so much gratification just off of people receiving the messages, and I pray that people receive the message. So what is your niche, Jafina? Jay Lucci, like what you stand for isn't what other people stand for. And what it truly is for me, it's connection and it's realism. And there's always going to be a place for people to feel connected to somebody who's just real about shit, and connecting is in a sense from, I guess, I don't want to downplay it. Being able to connect to so much different people of all different walks of life, that's actually a superpower of mine. And not everybody is confident enough to do that. Not everybody has the tools to do that. And so this is my real life. It says here, I've gone this far simply off of my views and my thoughts. And I've been able to work with brands based on who I am and not what I do. So while I'm sitting here comparing myself to people who like do like specific services, if you will, I just am who I am, and I've been able to secure brand deals. So that's amazing, and I want to just, you know, put that in my forefront, because Jay Lucci, Jafina, you've got this. And I put here, do you know how fucking cool that is? Like, that is very cool. I prayed about days where I didn't have to clock into for anybody else. I prayed about the days where I could just work on my own time and show up as me and do things that I love to do. And like this, like, I don't know, for other people, this might feel like work, might feel like nerve-wracking. Like, I love this shit. Like, I really do love speaking my mind and being open and having my voice being heard. I mean, shout out to my pops. My pop is like that. So if you know my dad, you know, like, this is just in my blood, in my veins. And I prayed about days where I didn't have to clock in on anyone's time. So when I'm doubting myself, and I'm sure that's normal, right? That's human. I have to remind myself that I prayed for days like this. And it took me all day to get these thoughts out, y'all. Right now it is 1:34 a.m. I was up by 8 o'clock today. I've had a full day, and it took me all day to get these thoughts out. It took for someone who really cares about me to sit me down, pass me this book, and immediately, like, I didn't even write in this book. They were around for a few hours, and they actually came into my room, my hair room, where I was doing some work, and they're like, "Are you working on anything right now?" And I was unfocused. I'm not lying. I would be lying if I said I was working. I was unfocused, doing a little bit of scrolling, a little bit of like social media stuff. I was off of the internet all weekend. Like I said, I was just present with my kid. So kind of feeling guilty that I wasn't working, but also just present. And it took for them to sit me down and say, right, get to work. And afterwards, here I am, and I shot my YouTube video. So what did I say here? And so after this, I will shoot this YouTube video from an editor who's also been really consistently pushing me. And like all day, he messaged me. It was his 10-year anniversary, and he said the best gift for me right now would be for you to get me this video so I can start editing. Shout out to Sean. Sean can do it. I want to give you your flowers also. And what that says to me is that there's people in my life who believe in me, even when I find it hard to believe in myself. Sometimes when I'm so down and I'm just like, all these excuses, all these roadblocks in my way, like why I can't get this machine to run and why I'm behind on securing certain things. Like, there's so much people who believe in me. It is, and I've honestly, I've been so blessed in my lifetime. There's been so much people in my whole entire life that have blessed me with opportunities, with game, with support. I would never overlook it. And that's why I'm here on YouTube. Going back to my original, my quest of this video, like what has got Jay Lucci to be here? I've been through a lot of shit, but just to break down my day, like this is why I'm here on YouTube, because all these streams, all these opportunities, they all matter. They all matter. And so I'm glad if you're here watching my YouTube, thank you for being a part of it. I know who I'm doing this for. And my whys are my purpose. And so that was my main jits. Like, that was my main body. But on the side of this notebook, there's places to put notes. So I'll explain my whys. The pink was my whys. So here it says, stop being scared to make a revenue. It can be done in so many different ways. I think for myself, like I've always wanted to do this series called Unlocking Jay Lucci. And if you see on like my socials, Instagram, TikToks, whatever, I always label the audio as Unlocking Jay Lucci. And it's me always just sharing my thoughts. And that originally started as me writing. If you know, you know. I love writing. I feel like it's one way I'm truly able to get out my feelings when I'm usually choked up. Because if you know, you know. Sometimes it's really hard for me, as much as I might come across as a really strong communicator, it's really hard for me to, like when I'm emotional about things, like I will just not talk. I will probably avoid things. If you know, she's a runner, she's a track star, I just won't talk about things, but I can write it down. I recently shared on Instagram like a clip, like a page, a screenshot of my journal that I wrote to my son when I was pregnant. Very, very, very deep, very hard time. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. That was a very hard time. And when I wasn't able to properly express, for example, some of these things to my son's father at the time, I was able to write it down, and everything is in that book. It's cool that he's gonna have that. But I've always wanted to do a written series, and so I wrote that in the notes. I'm gonna start actually doing a blog of my writing, because I've realized after just getting these thoughts out, like maybe I was struggling to make this YouTube video all day, but I just had to write. And after I write, that power of paper to pen, like these thoughts were gonna come to me. And yeah, so that's something I want to do. That was like, how it started. Yeah, I've got to go hard now. I want my parents, and especially my mom, to see my dreams come true and come to fruition. My mom is actually a little bit under the weather right now, and I guess it's kind of a wake-up call for everyone in our house. My sister came to me today. She's like, "Yo, she's really down bad today. Like, she almost passed out." And life is short. I know I talk about it online all the time, but I want to make the right choices. Life is about making the right choices to level up, and if you want to level up, you got to be doing things a little different. So the old me would have just not let this video come out. I would have not filmed this video today, but I'm making the right choices. It might be, it's still a little struggle. It's still almost 2 o'clock in the morning that I'm doing this. And in my notes, I do say I have to get more sleep. Sleep is imperative for muscle growth, development, and also for my well-being and for my son's well-being. My well-being is my son's well-being. But I am going to continue to do these healthy habits. And my why, my kid, my family, the people that I love, the people in your life, that was actually my first point I've written in the book, is that the people who are supposed to be in your life are supposed to be there at the right time. And at this point in my life, I'm just going with the right people. There's some people in my past that aren't around anymore in the same capacity, and I still love them to death. But in this capacity, the people who are with me right now, I guess that's who God intended in this moment, from whatever I receive, for also them to receive. And so, guys, my message of the day is, I've got this. Shout out to you guys if you are here. Thank you for listening to me for 17 minutes now on this YouTube. It means a lot. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of me being able to live in my true passion and be able to share and be vulnerable with y'all. One thing I will say about vulnerability before I end this is that the reason why I feel like it's a superpower is because if I tell you about me, nobody can tell me about me. You know what I mean? And some people are so dictated about how the world views them. And if you're not confident enough to be vulnerable, then I guess you do care a lot about what people think. And I'm not saying I don't. Obviously, you're human, you have emotions, but I control my narrative. I let people know exactly what it is. I don't gotta lie about it. Y'all know me. Go back to my previous episodes. I let it all out about certain things, certain past things that are kind of shady, shit that I did fucked up, things that are kind of bad. Nobody's gonna tell me, oh, you're like this. I know. I know what I've had to work on. I know what the things I need to grow on, and that's how we grow together. That's how I've been growing and living a happier, more peaceful, and more full life. And that is the vulnerability. That is what the Parker Conversation stands for. And I can't be the host of this show and not be vulnerable with y'all. So much love. If you haven't already liked, subscribed, send this video to somebody out there. Let's encourage and let's keep this going. Vulnerability is beautiful if you just allow it to, be a part of your life. So subscribe. Much love. Till next time. Peace.